Hello friends, my name is McKenna and welcome to Knit Between the Lines, a knitting podcast. This is a podcast where I chat about what I'm spinning, what I'm knitting on, and my love for fiber arts. So grab whatever project you're working on and let's get into it. Oh, you warm. Were you roasting into sun? So it's been about 2 weeks since I last talked to you guys on a podcast. Oh my God, just a little kitty butt in the corner. So it's been about 2 weeks since I last talked to you guys on a podcast format, but I did release a fall project planning video on Wednesday of last week talking about all of my aspirations and plans for fall and winter. So if you're looking for some knitting inspiration for the season, definitely go check that out. Also, before we get too deep into it, I wanted to talk to you guys about the shawl that I'm wearing today. Skra Bakova. Today, the piece of knitwear that I am knitting is the October Hill Shawl by Susanna Skra Bakova. This is my London shawl, which is what I've deemed it. This is actually a shawl knit out of my souvenir yarn from my trip to London with my husband that we did back in 2023. So it was super, super fun. And of course, when I went, I had to go yarn shopping, and I went to Beautiful Knitter, found some beautiful yarn, and they had a beautiful sample, and then this was born. So let's get into WIPs. All right, so my main WIP right now, as you guys know, is the Pressed Flowers Cardigan by Amy Christoffers, or Savory Knits. I'm in kind of a very weird, awkward stage in this project right now, so it's gonna be a little hard to pick up and show you guys. So let me show you where I last left off. Right there. Oop, it's trying to focus on my face. There we go. This is where I left off with you guys last time, right where that gummy bear progress marker is. So I have actually split for the front right, front left, and the back, which is super interesting. This is the first cardigan I've ever knit, so I'm not very familiar with cardigan construction. This is a cardigan knit from the bottom up, and I know a lot of cardigans typically are raglans and they're from the top down, and I don't know how I feel about it. So essentially what you do is you knit across the left front for like one row, and then you put those on hold, and then you knit across the stitches that are going to be the back, put those on hold, and then you knit across what's going to be the front right, and then you keep those stitches live and you work that front panel. And essentially what you're doing is you're doing the shaping to create that V-neck, and then eventually you'll do shoulder shaping. You'll do the same for the left front, and then you'll do the back, and you'll kind of end up seaming them together at the shoulders, then going on to the sleeves. That being said, having like 2/3 of my sweater on barber cords and only working a small like amount of stitches is just really awkward when it comes to like handling the project. I'll kind of give you a look at what I'm talking about. So, okay. Here is what's gonna be the left front. It's just on my blue barber cord, and then this is what's going to be the back. I don't have it flat because I have it tied together to keep the stitches from kind of stretching out, but this is going to be the back, this part here, and then this is the front right that I'm currently working on. Look at all my pretty floats. But here's the front right that's currently live, and as you can't really tell because I haven't done too much on it yet. I've only done one decrease on it. And you do the decreases every like 8th row. So I have that marked with a little stitch marker here because this pattern has texture in it. So it's a little harder to count the rows. But here she is in all of her glory. I still really love the straw flowers and how it's working up. We're back to that really pretty blue, and it's going into a nice purple right now. And I think it's just so freaking pretty. So this was my like TV knitting, because after a while you do memorize the colorwork motif because it's pretty simple and it's the same thing over and over again. It's pretty intuitive. So I was just kind of my TV knitting or my hang out with friends knitting, so I didn't really have to think about it anymore. Now that I have this situation where like 2/3 of it are on a barber cord, only a little bit is live stitches, and now I have to focus on decreasing and everything. I have to have a lot more brain power to work on this, which is why there isn't nearly as much progress on it as there normally is when I show you guys this project. But I'm still really, really loving it and really enjoying it, and I do think it's gonna be a project, or I do think it's going to be a finished object that I grab for very often, because I love the colors. It brings me so much joy, and I think the gray will just look great with pretty much anything. But that's where I'm at on this project right now, which is kind of a handful, and it does take a little bit more brain space to work on, which is okay. I just have to be in the mindset and the mood to knit on it now, which is totally fine. There is now a brand new cast on that has become my don't have to think about it knitting. And that is the Sideline Wrap by Brienne Moody. I talked about this project during my episode 2 podcast, where I spoke about my haul from Flock Fiber Festival and the yarn that I got for this project that I was super excited about. I have officially casted it on because I just couldn't wait any longer. I still haven't finished the Yarn Cozy Lights, and this was supposed to be my reward for finishing the Yarn Cozy Lights, but I just couldn't wait any longer, and I really, really wanted to work on it. So here she is in all of her glory. I freaking love this project. I love how bright and fun it is. We started down here with this really bright, vibrant pink, and then you can see that it slowly transitions into a purple. I don't know if you can tell right now looking at it, but there is a little bit of green in that second ply with the purple, so we are starting to pull in that really nice bright green yellow that I loved so much in the Straw Baby. It looks so good. Oh, and the yarn, of course, sorry, is the main color that I'm using is Peppercini from Explorer Knits and Fibers, which is coming across way more yellow on camera, but it is a very much a bright yellow green. There is definitely a green tint to it. It is like highlighter neon, and I love it. Not typically a color that I go for, I will be honest, but that's why we are playing with it in an accessory to see how we feel. And the contrast color that we are using to go with it is the Straw Baby Dyed in the Wool from Spin Cycle. There we go. Absolutely gorgeous. As you can see, that green, it's gonna go really, really nice with that. I am kind of sad that it is towards the end, which means it's gonna be towards the like other end of the Sideline Wrap. So we might do some color management, but I don't know, because you can't really see it on the front of this game, but if I turn it to the back, we are gonna get more of that yellow green here in the middle with the purple and the like corally colors. So I think we might be fine. I probably won't be too terribly mad about it being a solid green block kind of towards the middle where it would be like on the top of my noggin. So it might work out just fine. Usually with Spin Cycle, I just go for the ride. I don't really color manage my Spin Cycle unless there's like a color in this game that I'm like really, really obsessed with and I really want to celebrate and I want it to be in a certain part of the project, or if I'm worried I won't get to that color and I really want the color in the project. But in this situation, I'm probably just gonna let it ride because it's just a beautiful skein and I really love the different colors in it, especially because we're gonna get to this really pretty light purple color soon. And I think that'll look really lovely. It'll kind of tone down the neon situation that is Peppercini. But I love this. It's so fun. Again, I'm not usually a neon person. I used to be when I was in like middle school. Like I feel like everyone went through that neon phase in middle school, but I kind of grew out of it as an adult. But I feel like this is so fun and I feel like it'll look really great with like a black shirt and some jeans, and this will be so much fun for a pop of color. So definitely recommend. The increasing part was a little confusing for me, trying to stay in pattern, but it's turning out great and I love it so much, so yay. Also, I just realized this is another contender for Young Folk Knits Mosaic Mayhem knit along, and I didn't mean to do that. So now I have 2 projects that go along with that knit along. We love that. All right, and for my third whip is my Cozy Comfort Throw by Molly from A Homespun House. So for my yarn, I am using the 2023 An Irish Christmas Advent from Irish Artisan Yarns. This is a advent calendar that was inspired by the Irish coastline. So here's a little booklet it came with so you can see all her inspiration photos, which are pretty spot on in the colorways, and I love them. And then you are supposed to hold this double with another fingering weight yarn if you are using a fingering weight yarn, and I chose Knit Picks Stroll. Sorry, there's cat hair. And just like a bear color. I didn't get it dyed or anything. I just got a bear, which ended up being cheaper. And this is so much fun and super easy and super mindless, and I've just kind of been knitting on this when Cameron and I are watching TV together at the end of the night while we're after we're done eating dinner. So I am on the third color now, which is Tide. Fact check that, hold on. Yeah, Tide, which is definitely way more on the green side. I swear when I show you guys the individual skeins, they look exactly the same. But then when you see it in the blanket and you really can tell the difference. Maybe. Oh yeah. So down here was the first color, which was C. And then here you can tell it gets a little bit more green. So this is more of like a blue teal. This is becoming more of a green teal, and this was Coast. And now you have this really cool, almost sagey, variegated green color, which is Tide. And I really, really like that, like you can definitely see the differences in colors, but it's not so stark that it's like a definitive stripe, but like you can still see the stripe. Does that make any sense? I don't know if that makes any sense, but it makes sense to me. I don't know, it gives a really cool vibe. Part of me wishes I would have gone for maybe not such a stark color to hold with the yarn, maybe more of a gray, like a light gray, which would have given it a softer feel, but you know, we're here now. And I still think it's beautiful. And it's so soft and it's super like squishy, so it's gonna be a really nice lap blanket to have on our couch, and I think we'll reach for it a lot. And I'm just really excited to see the fade, because soon we're gonna be getting into like light purples into deeper purples, and then we're gonna fade back into like blues. So I think it'll be super pretty. And I'm really excited to see how it kind of all knits up together. And this is also a great like scrappy project or a great like advent project, which is what I'm using it for. And it's super easy to follow. It's just a garter stitch blanket. And I love it. I definitely feel like this is a pattern I'll come back to very, very often. I don't feel like I have much to share about this blanket because it's just a really easy knit, and like it's super mindless, and it's just it's kind of my comfort project right now, because again, like I don't have to think about it. It's just it's just knitting all the way through. I'm just joining each new color with a magic knot right now, so like I don't even really have to worry about ends. I don't have to worry about when one skein ends and the other one starts. I literally just knit until I'm out, and then I join it with a magic knot and we keep on knitting. So it's been really, really nice. So we love that. My only other whip right now is the Yarn Cozy Lights that I was telling you about, using the Headless Horseman colorway from Cozy Cauldron Co. I haven't touched it at all. I haven't even casted on the 50 gram cozy. I think I just needed a break. I love the cozies. The cozies are great, but after knitting 2 of them in a row, I was just like jonesing for something new, which is why we casted on the Sideline Wrap instead. I still want to work on it, and I still want the like cozy sets. I just needed some spice in my life, if that makes sense, without getting overzealous and casting on a million things. So she's still there. She's just chilling out in the background for right now, but we'll pull her back out soon. I just needed some spice in my life, something fun to work on for a little bit. All right, guys, I actually have some spinning to show you this time because I finally got a nitty knotty. So that means all of the hand spun that I've been talking about that's just been hanging out because I didn't have like a longer, bigger nitty knotty is finally skeined up. So I am part of a Discord group for local knitters and crafters in Portland, and one of them posted about a wheel and a bunch of spinning tools that they were looking to just rehome, and one of those tools was a nitty knotty, and I was like, hey girl, I would love to take that off your hands. So they just left it in a bin on their porch, and when they went out to work, and then when I got off, I just scooted on over there and grabbed it and was able to finally skein up my first 3 hand spun projects, which I'm super excited about. So I'm thinking we should go in chronological order because, girl, my first spin's a hot mess. She's a hot mess. But I knew she would be, and we still love her for it. It's fine. She got character. It's fine. So let me grab it. Okay, so this is the gray Gotland that I chose for my first spin, which I now learned was probably not the smartest, but we did it anyway. And you know, she is something, okay? So some areas are like really great. For example, like that. She's cute, she looks great. That's yarn. That's a beautiful 2-ply yarn, right? But then we got places like this, like that, you know, and then places like this. There we go, like that. And there's a lot of those. There is a lot of those, all right? But you know, we tried our best, and you know, it's not bad. She's not terrible. Like, the fact this even remotely looks like yarn is an accomplishment, in my humble opinion. And I'm proud of it. I really am. It was a place to start. And honestly, I think because I did start with such a difficult fiber and then moved on to like Rimboulet and BFL and Romney, it made those fibers feel so much easier and so much smoother to spin, which I think set me up for success. And you know, we love her. She'll hold a special place in our hearts. Will she ever get knit with? Probs not. Will she sit on my shelf as a memory of where I started? Absolutely. And she will always hold a special place in my heart. So let's see what she looks like skeined up. Oh, she's thick. Hold on. We gotta get a little tighter here, y'all. Man, no one told you how hard it is to freaking wrap these skeins. Oh, wow. Holy cow. Okay, so look at this massive skein. Look at it. Do you see this? That's crazy. What the heck? It's like as big as my noggin. Hold on. That's insane. That's wild. That's a thick skein. Whoo! She do be hiding her flaws though when she's skeined up. Like, you couldn't tell me there was massive neps in this just by looking at her. Who knows, maybe I will knit with it. I don't know what yet, but we'll see. We'll see. She's still a little wet too, so we still gotta let her dry, but I don't know. We love her. We did that. We did that, you know? This next one is actually technically my third spin because my second spin was the purple yarn that I had finished forever ago because it was not a lot of fiber and I kind of whipped through it pretty quick. And because it was not a lot of fiber, I was able to use my smaller Nitty Knotty that's 3D printed. That's just a yard, which produces those really tiny mini skeins, which definitely was a massive improvement from this guy. But I even think from then, this next spin was even more of an improvement, which was the white Romney that I spun as a 2-ply. Here she is. Look at it. Like, that's yarn, you guys. Like, she's low-key consistent. Like, that's so wild. Like, there's not, like, it's definitely thick and thin, don't get me wrong, like all handspun is. And she pretty much comes in at around a DK to an Aran weight from her thinnest to her thickest. Well, maybe some sport too. Listen, it's fine, she's got character. But like, this looks like store-bought yarn, like, and it's so bouncy. Hold on, there we go. And it's so bouncy and round. Usually with 2-plies, a lot of people say that it's not as plump and round like a 3-ply is, but look at this. Do you see how round that is? And it's so squishy and so soft. Oh my God, I like am flabbergasted that I did this as like my third spin ever. Oh, I love it. And it smells so good. Oh my God. I just want to sit here and squish it. I don't know. I'm just like super stoked about this. Let me put it into a skein. Look at that beauty. She's also a thick one. Look at it. Oh my God, it's so good. It's so good, and I'm so proud of myself. You can definitely tell it's a thicker weight, but like, that's wild. I'm just so proud of myself. I didn't think I would get here so quickly, and that just makes me so happy that like, I actually did decide that like spinning was something I wanted to do, and I didn't let my frustration with spindle spinning deter me, because I really love it, and like, I did that. Like, I made this. And that's amazing. Like, that's crazy. And now this one is technically my 4th spin, which was the oatmeal BFL yarn that I showed you guys last week. And girl, she is also lovely. Is she on a hanger? Yes. Look at this. Look at how consistent she is. Listen, we got some imperfections. Like we got some loose bits. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, that's very loosely spun, but like most of this is fantastic. This one is hitting a little bit thicker. It's kind of between a DK and a bulky. The BFL really fluffed up. And while I was spinning it, it did want to spin thicker. It was just a little bit more grippy than the Romney. But it spun up beautifully, and I love how soft and squishy this is. And it's pretty similar in weight to the Rambouillet that I just finished. So my hope is to knit these into like a traveler cowl or something like that to celebrate the fact that it's hand spun, and I did it. And the texture of the traveler is pretty forgiving to texture. I think the shift cowl is also pretty forgiving to texture as well. We'll have to see, but I am just like so beyond thrilled that like I made this. Like, I did that. That's crazy. Ugh, it's gorgeous. I didn't even bother doing wraps per inch or figuring out the weight on the Gotland because it's just a hot mess express, and she's just gonna sit pretty on a shelf and I'm going to admire her forever. Or if I ever take up weaving, I'll do that. I'll weave it to make like some sort of wall hanging to celebrate the first skein I ever spun. But we'll see, maybe things will change. But I definitely am excited to hopefully use this BFL and the Rambouillet in a project because I'm very, very proud of it. And the yarn turned out beautifully. Like, they're both 2-plies and they're both so round and so squishy, and all I want to do is sit here and squish it. Oh my God. I have not figured out the yardage or the weight on either of these yet because they are still drying. They're just a little damp still on the ends where like that's on the hanger. But once these are nice and dry, I do plan to measure it from end to end in inches, multiply that by 2 to get theoretically the full circumference, and then divide that in order to figure out the yards, and then the weight in grams, which will probably give me a better idea of what weight we are sitting at. But I think this is pretty close to the Rambouillet, and I'm working on the Romney right now, and I'm aiming to get around the same weight to hopefully work for a project or all 3 of them. So if anyone wants to give me tips on how to skein things up appropriately, I would appreciate it because something doesn't seem right. But here we are. Also a short king and chunky, and I love it. I'm really glad I got the Nitty Naughty. It actually has 3 different lengths for different yardages, which is super nice. So I can't imagine trying to skein this up on my little 1 yard Nitty Naughty because it would have probably ended up having to be a couple skeins, but I love it. And I love the color and I love the feel, and it's gonna be so great to knit with this. I'm so excited. As mentioned previously, the only spinning whip I have right now is the Kent Romney that I hope to use with the BFL and the Rambouillet. Here is my first single. There she is. Look at it. I'm so proud. I am doing basically the same thing that I did with the BFL and the Rambouillet. This was a 4-ounce bump that I purchased from Northwest Yarn Textiles in Washington. And I just split the 4-ounce bump in half, so it's 2 ounces each for each ply, and I'm doing a short forward draft, and we're aiming for like DK weight-ish area, because obviously like those two yarns are kind of a range between DK, Aran, and bulky. So we got some wiggle room. But I'm really excited. The Romney definitely works up differently than the Rambouillet. It's not as lofty, but it isn't as grabby and hairy as the BFL. I definitely feel like it's a good middle ground between the two of them. So it was really interesting to experience something so fine and soft and lofty to spin like the Rambouillet, and then something super grabby and hairy like the BFL, and then having the Romney that kind of sits somewhere in the middle between those two, which I think is a good thing, because I think it'll kind of marry everything together if I do decide to knit all these fibers into a project, which I do think I plan to do. I think it'll be a great way to celebrate the first couple skeins of handspun that I've made ever. So we'll see, but look, she looks so good. I'm so proud, and I'm having such a fun time spinning, and I can't wait to see how this turns out as a final skein, because these, after washing them, they really plumped up like a lot. So I'm really intrigued to see what happens with the Romney as well. Okay, so now on to acquisitions. This was a very spontaneous purchase last weekend from when my mom was in town. So as I said last week in my life section, my mom actually flew out from Indiana to Portland, Oregon to visit me. She came to celebrate my birthday. My birthday is technically not till September, but she was unable to get time off during that month, so she came out a little early in August. So my husband Cameron and I really wanted to show her everything West Coast, everything Portland, because she's never been farther than Las Vegas. And even then, she only goes like once every few years with a couple of her friends. So it was really, really fun and exciting to experience these things with her and to show her everything that we love about Oregon, Portland, and the Pacific Northwest. So her favorite day was actually when we took her to Cannon Beach. Cannon Beach is actually the beach featured in the movie Goonies, if you are aware of that movie, which I feel like most of us are, but she's a big beach person, and I knew she would love going to Cannon Beach, especially because the coastline for the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast in general is very different from East Coast. It's way more rocky, way more scenic, whereas on the East Coast it's pretty much just like sand on the beach and then water, and that's it. No visual interest on the coastline. And we walked around the town a little bit, went into some gift shops, and then we went down to the beach and just kind of sat down in our lawn chairs. We walked in the water. We just enjoyed the nice breeze coming off the water and just looking at the scenic coastline, which she loved. She's looked at me and she's like, I could sit here for hours. But while we were walking around town, I came across a yarn store, which is crazy because I've been to Cannon Beach a couple times now and never noticed that there was a yarn store called Coastal Yarns. So of course I had to go look, because what kind of missed opportunity is that? So I went in and kind of checked out the different yarns they had, and they had quite a good selection. There was a lot of summer fibers that were offered, obviously because it is a coastal town. Lots of cottons and silks and plant fibers. They also had a lot of different types of Noro yarns, which was so cool to see. Noro is not a type of yarn that I get to see very often, and I was super excited to see the different kinds of yarn they had. But I didn't purchase any because Noro's a little more on the expensive side, and I definitely don't want to purchase Noro yarn without a project in mind that I know I'm gonna love, because it is such kind of an investment. However, it is expensive, but you do get more yardage. It is typically like double the amount of the yardage that you get in a typical skein. So like, is it more expensive? I'm gonna tell myself that it is so I don't buy it. I'm trying not to enable myself. It was really, really hard though, because they had some gorgeous, gorgeous skeins. They also had different kits that they offered for different patterns they were selling. They also had a whole wall of their own hand-dyed yarn, a lot of which was actually Oregon or Cannon Beach or Coast or Pacific Northwest inspired. And they were beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. There was a skein called Puffin that was essentially going to give you like these really beautiful micro stripes. And it had like orange and black and brown and white, and it was really, really pretty. And I was like this close to buying it. Another skein was called Agate Beach, and it was just this really gorgeous cream colored with all these different speckles through it. That was a hard skein to put back. I loved it, and I'm definitely a speckles person, so it was really, really hard for me to like put that back onto the wall and walk away from. But the yarn that I did purchase that I couldn't walk away from was this. There we go. This is Haystack Rock. Haystack Rock is a big rock formation on the coast of Cannon Beach. It is like the iconic thing people think of when they picture Cannon Beach. And I think this is just freaking beautiful. It has these really pretty burnt orangey yellows. There's a little bit of teals in there. There's this purple. There's like this like gray blue. And then you have like that gray taupey background. And it's like if you married a speckle and variegated yarn into one skein, and I love it. For fiber content purposes, it is 80% merino superwash wool and 20% nylon, so a pretty typical blend for a fingering weight sock yarn. But it is 387 yards per 100 grams. So, and the gauge is listed as 26 to 32 stitches per 4 inches or 10 centimeters for a US 1 to a US 4, which is a 2.5 to 3.5 millimeter knitting needle. And of course, as you guys know, I can't buy yarn without having a project in mind because that's how we justify yarn purchases in this house. But I was like, this would be gorgeous in a Musselburgh hat or some sort of beanie. My go-to pattern for hats is usually a Musselburgh. If you guys have any suggestions for different patterns for hats that you guys love and come back to, definitely drop those in the comments because I do want to explore different hat patterns. But the Musselburgh is my go-to usually. So typically for a Musselburgh, I do need about 400 yards, give or take, which is typically 100 grams from like indie dyer. Usually it's about like 400 plus yards per 100 grams. So because this one was only 387 yards per 100 grams, I did grab 2 of them. And I did try to grab 2 that were pretty similar. There were some that had a little less of the purple in it. Like even, you can tell even from like these 2, this one has a lot more of that purple in it, whereas this one has a lot more of the background color. But I do think it'll be fine. Like there's so much going on in this game with the variegated and the speckles that I think it'll kind of all blend together. And if I'm really worried about it, I'll helical knit it and it'll be fine, even though like I don't really want to, but I will because we're responsible. But I think this is gonna be absolutely gorgeous. And I love Cannon Beach, and it's such an iconic Oregon stop that I just feel like I couldn't pass up this yarn. So I think it's gonna be really, really pretty, and I'm super excited. And I know I keep saying I'm gonna stop buying yarn, but I also bought an Advent the other day. So like, at this point, are we really on a yarn ban? Who knows? Who knows? All right, so that's all I have for knitting WIPs and FOs. There weren't any. And spinning WIPs and FOs and acquisitions. So now I get to tell you guys a little bit about what's going on in my life right now. So as I mentioned in the last In last episode and this episode, my mom came to visit from Indiana and we took her to all of the places. So I just told you guys how we took her to Cannon Beach for the day. That's what we did the Sunday she was here, which was the day before she left. The night she came in, we just kind of grabbed dinner. This was my birthday dinner. I took her to Din Tai Fung, which is a like dim sum restaurant that is actually a chain here on the West Coast, and she loved it. And then that was Thursday night. Friday, we did kind of a big excursion out to the gorge. So we took her to Multnomah Falls, which she loved. And then we took her out to Trillium Lake, which is beautiful, as well as Mount Hood. Trillium Lake is in Mount Hood National Park, and you can actually see Mount Hood from Trillium Lake. Unfortunately, it was overcast and cloudy, so she could only see like the base of Mount Hood. A good like, I want to say like 2/3 to like a half of the mountain was actually obscured by clouds, so she didn't get to see that, which was unfortunate. It was pretty overcast majority of the time that she was here, but it is the closest she's been to a mountain. And the lake was still gorgeous, and it was super like tranquil and serene, and like the breeze coming off the water was super nice, and she super enjoyed that. While we were also at the gorge, we took her up to the Vista House, which is a really beautiful kind of lookout point that overlooks the Columbia River and the gorge into Washington from Oregon. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And the Vista House was actually open. They have a museum underneath the main floor, and on the top you can actually go up a little bit higher and have a higher vantage point of the gorge. So we went down and actually walked through the little museum, which gives a brief history about Vista House and the gorge. And then on Saturday was just kind of our Portland shopping day. We took her to a really amazing brunch place called Screen Door downtown, which again Cameron and I use as like a little treat to ourselves, especially when we have people visiting. And we took her to Powell's, which is an amazing independent bookseller in Portland. It's 3 floors in an entire city block. They call it the City of Books for a reason. It is my absolute favorite place to go, and every time I go, I feel like I always find something new. I always walk out with at least 2 to 3 books to add to my never-ending TBR. And then after Powell's, we went to Portland Gear, where our friend Sean works, and kind of walked around and looked at the different merchandise that they offered. And then we took her down to 23rd Avenue, which is a really pretty street that has a bunch of local businesses on it, and we just kind of meandered, walked into different shops and window shopped and bought some souvenirs. We went to Salt and Straw, which is a amazing ice cream shop here in Portland that has amazing ice cream flavors. If you ever come to Portland, definitely recommend going to Powell's, and you have to go to Salt and Straw. As for what I am reading right now, I did finish Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. So good. I would probably give it like a 3.75 stars out of 5. I'm really stingy when it comes to my 5 stars, and mostly a lot of other stuff get 4 stars. The book, in my personal opinion, was good, and I really enjoyed reading it, but I wouldn't say it was like 4 stars in my personal opinion. I don't regret reading it, and I would definitely recommend it to others to read it, but definitely don't think it's quite 4 stars for me personally. But it was super good and I super enjoyed it. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but there was a point in the book where I was like, and I pretty much devoured the last like 30% of it in like a day, because how could I not when like that twist happened. So as for what I'm reading right now, I am reading Caraval by Stephanie Garber, which is a young adult fantasy trilogy. It's Caraval, Legacy, and Finale. And it's a precursor series to the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, which I also own. So we're not too deep into it yet. I'm only, I think, like 40 pages in, and I haven't had a lot of time to read it recently, but I am liking it. You can definitely tell it is a young adult book, but usually that doesn't bother me. I usually tend to lean towards young adult books or fantasy sci-fi books, which can sometimes also be young adult as well. But I like it, it's good. So I'll let you guys know how I feel as I keep reading. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm reading right now. As far as what I'm watching, we're still watching Dexter. We just started season 6. I think that might be the last season, which is like super sad. Let me check. Oh, there's 8 seasons. Okay, so we got 2 more seasons. We're fine. So we're watching Dexter. We just started season 6, and it's getting good. I'm not gonna lie. I'm definitely a fan. I'm like in it. Like we're sucked in. So that's exciting. I'm still watching Mindhunter. I'm on season 2 right now, which is super sad because that means I'm almost done, and I really am enjoying it. And in addition to that, we just started watching the animated Adventures of Vox Machina on Amazon Prime. This is actually a campaign that was produced and played by Critical Role on YouTube. Critical Role is basically like these people that play D&D on YouTube, and they get like super into it. A lot of them are actually voice actors professionally in like different video games or movies, and they all just get together and they play D&D, and it is so cool. Like they have a whole production, they have a whole table, like they're all super great, and the stories that they all tell through the game that they're playing is amazing. They were actually able to animate and produce, I think this was their first campaign, and they have it on Amazon Prime for you to watch. So Cameron and I are watching that. If you're not familiar with D&D, but you're interested in D&D at all, I definitely recommend watching Critical Role on YouTube. D20 is also a great option as well to watch on YouTube to kind of introduce you to what D&D is and what the vibe is and how to play. It definitely inspired me and my husband to join a D&D group when we were back in Boston, and we had so much fun. We played, I think, 2 different campaigns technically. We have not found a new group since we've moved to Portland, so we're hoping that will be a development soon because we really did enjoy playing D&D, and it definitely made me feel like I was in a fantasy book, which is like all I've ever wanted. So if you do play in D&D, let me know down below and tell me what your favorite class is to play. Currently, I am a Earth Genasi Druid, and I love this character. It was my first character I've ever made, and she's close to my heart. Her name is Griselda. I love her so much, and I feel like she has a piece of me. So let me know if you have a D&D character, and tell me about them down in the comments below. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. If you liked this video and you want to stick around for some more crafty goodness, please like and subscribe and click that bell icon to get notifications for any other videos that I post in the future. Thank you all for stopping at my little crafty corner of YouTube. I appreciate that you're here and you shared your time with me today. See you next time. Bye.